The next shot we're gonna work on today is the kitchen, and this thing is amazing. It has these double islands and they probably span almost 20 feet. We've got this industrial type fridge, this amazing range, the backsplash. I mean, there's so many great elements in this custom light fixture that's made from some sort of, it looks like a steampunk weird piston design, super cool. And we've got the pantry over in the corner, and then we've also got the powder room that connects to this space. I'm gonna try to split this kitchen actually up into two different shots, kind of like kitchen A and kitchen B. And the reason for that is it's so huge. And if I was to try to capture it all in one shot, everything's gonna get really small in the frame. You're not gonna know what to look at, and it's gonna get kind of busy. So I'm thinking if I just chunk it down and treat it as a left and right, we're gonna be able to make the best shot possible. So I'm gonna show you the composition that I'm working on and what I've sort of come up with here. And what I've done in this composition is I've actually included the support for this big beam that runs down the middle of the room. And the reason for that is it's part of the design, and we haven't shown it yet. It's kind of weird because it's dead center in the middle of this wide open space, and it doesn't look great when it's in the frame, but it's something we needed to include at this point in time. I've also got that gold chair over in the corner. That anchors the dining room shot we did earlier. It's really gonna, I think, tie the space together so that the potential buyer that sees this online is gonna be able to visually walk through the space and get a sense of the flow. So the first thing we're gonna do here, now that we've got our composition, is I'm gonna switch over to autofocus, and I'm just gonna confirm that we have focus. I can see on the back of the camera that it's actually picking up this hanging pendant light here, and I don't want that. I want it to be more in the middle of the room, so I'm just gonna manually tap the back of my camera and pick something more in the middle. And we hear that beep, so we know that we now have focus. I'm gonna switch back over to manual so we're not hunting throughout the different exposures. And looking at the meter, I'm just gonna come down to where it says we have a good exposure and take a shot. This is what our exposure looks like at the moment. It's a little bit dark. I know I'm definitely gonna have to put some light back into this powder room over here, and we're gonna bring up the full values in here. I might actually slow the shutter just a little bit and drag it just so that we can get a little bit more ambient. I just don't want this backsplash to get too blown out over here, so I'm gonna keep an eye on that, and I'm just gonna keep an eye on the overall exposure before we start to add any light. So I'm gonna actually drag the shutter and I'm gonna come up a full stop. So we're one stop over what the meter thinks is the proper exposure for this room. That feels really good throughout. We still have detail. We can still see the grout lines in between these tiles on the backsplash. The ambient's starting to bleed in a little bit too much, and we're getting a little bit too much contamination. So I'm gonna come down a third of a stop. That's gonna be our base exposure. That's where we're gonna start. Again, because we're shooting in this wide open space, we're gonna have to use a flash with an umbrella. We have nothing to bounce off of. The whole other side of the room is French doors and windows. There's artwork over there. We have the fireplace. So we don't have a very good shot at bouncing light over there. What I'm gonna do is set a light over there to try something out. This beam may introduce a problem with shadows, but I really would like to light from this left side of the room and have the light coming across this way. Don't know if it's gonna work. That's kind of where I'm thinking I'm gonna start. So let's put this light over here. Again, we've got a warming gel on here, 1/4 CTO, just so that we get that light warmed up a bit when it goes through the shoot-through umbrella. And I'm gonna go all the way up to full power on this. And we're gonna capture a shot. At the top of the frame here, by this support beam, we have a massive shadow. It's a dead giveaway that all the light's coming from that side of the room. I don't want that. I don't like it. I mean, it's giving us a good quality of light everywhere else. But if I can avoid that hard shadow there, I want to try to do that. So what I'm going to do is move that light actually around the other side. What we want to try to do is have the light coming directional. We don't want it coming from behind the camera because that flattens things out. So as long as we're off to one side, we should be able to get a good, nice fill light that looks natural. And it could be believable that that's coming from these windows and these fixtures on this end of the house. So I'm going to grab that umbrella. We're going to move it down to this end and take another shot and see what happens. Careful not to bump the tripod. And I'm being careful not to have this light show up in the mirror that's inside the powder room. I can see that in my composition. So I got to make sure that my umbrella isn't too far over or it's going to show up in that mirror. So again, we're just kind of guessing. We're going to plop it down here and take a shot. So I feel like that does a really good job at brightening the overall values of the room. Got rid of that hard shadow that was up here by the support beam. We're not gonna look at the bottom of the frame. I know that this is super flat and it's really overlit here, and that's because this umbrella is just next to this island. We're gonna turn that down at some point when we add our top down lighting, and then we're gonna be able to get some nice contrasting edges and carve some shape into these islands. I think I'm gonna run down and throw a light inside that powder room, and I wouldn't mind having some more light on that golden chair down in the corner there. So I'm gonna put one of these little guys over there and we'll see what happens. So this little guy, we're gonna run down, and I'm gonna put this guy right on top of this clock here, just aiming into the corner. And that should fill this whole corner with light and throw it back down on this chair. Again, we're never aiming light directly in the scene. We want it to hit the corner, diffuse, and then come back this way, and then it should put some nice light over here and brighten this corner up. And we're gonna take our other light and just put it on top of the door in the powder room. We're gonna aim it just straight up into the ceiling. This is gonna be on low power, right around 1/8 right now. Again, that's a fairly small room in there, and the light's gonna be bouncing around quite a bit, so we don't wanna nuke that. We just want to bring up the level in there, and that one's at 1/8 power. Doesn't really matter. We're just gonna take a shot and see what happens. That corner is actually way too bright, so I'm gonna turn that light down, and I don't think the one in the powder room ended up firing. Again, with these flashes that are being triggered by the optical sensor in the front, you want that to always be facing, if you can, the other flashes in the room so that it can see them. So sometimes you will have to swivel the top of the flash so that the window is actually facing inwards. That's gonna sit there, and we're gonna make sure that the one in here is facing outwards. Okay, so that one should be able to see. Now we've got really, really nice light in that powder room, and we've got some nice light happening on this chair, and the foreground is super bright, but now we're gonna turn this light down, and we're gonna grab our light on a stick, bounce some light right in the middle of the room, almost right in the center of where this fixture is. And then that should come down nicely and then give us some good shape on the island and give us some natural looking top down fill like it's coming from the overhead fixtures and the can lights. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn this guy way down. I'm gonna go down to 1/4 power, and I'm gonna grab my other light, and we're gonna walk just to the right of the scene. So we know that our frame ends right about here. And I'm gonna start at 1/2 power this time and see what happens. And just holding our light out. Still super, super hot on this island over here. I'm gonna turn this down a little bit more, and I'm actually gonna turn this light down as well. What I wanna try to do is bounce this light in a spot where when the light comes down, it's lighting the top of the counter, and then where the waterfall goes over the edge here, I want this to be darker so we have light and dark. So I'm actually gonna go a little bit off center of this fixture over here and bounce the light up in this area. Other than the fact that I'm in the frame, that looks amazing. So I'm just gonna back off a little bit and do the exact same shot. One thing that I do want to address really quick is I'm a pretty tall guy. I'm 6'1", I got pretty long arms, and I'm able to stand at a frame and have really just the light coming into the frame. If you're shorter, if you're not so strong, and maybe you can't hold this out, you can do the same thing in 2 different pieces, and I'll show you that now, and we'll put that together in post and show you that you can get the exact same results. It's gonna be 1 extra step in the field. That sort of addresses that issue if you're just not as tall or as strong as I am. If we wanna be right in the scene, I'm gonna be completely obvious here, and I'm gonna fire this off, and I'm gonna notice where I hit on the ceiling, and I'm just gonna go to the opposite side of the room and do the exact same thing. So that should give me the exact same quality of light, the same direction of light, because I have it pooling in the same area, but I've just swapped sides in the frame. So when we do the post-production and we combine these photos together, you shouldn't have a problem doing the same technique and getting the same results. It's just that 1 extra little step. Got ourselves a great composition, we're telling the story, and we've got it all lit now. So let's switch angles and do part B of this kitchen.